in the first game that we had on Sunday, the international game in Dublin, the Pittsburgh Steelers took down the Minnesota Vikings 20. Well, I should say held on because the Vikings were kind of making an effort there at the end of that game. But Steelers hang on 24-21 to win this one. The top 5 graded players for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number one, of course, it's got to be DK Metcalf, who was an absolute animal in the first half of that game and really set the tone for them. 91.1 was his overall grade. Cornerback James Pierre with a 85.2. Running back Kenneth Gainwell, who was just fantastic in this game as well. Just such a great complimentary piece, and Steelers were finally able to really get something going on the ground, which is great to see. 85.0 grade for him. Safety Deshaun Elliott with a 79.5, and then offensive guard Mason McCormick with a 79.3. Aaron Rodgers in this one, a 60.6. Not a high difficulty day for him. A lot of yards after the catch for his guys, but setting him up pretty well to be able to do that, and that's what got to help get them the win. On Minnesota's side of things, defensive tackle Jalen Redmond with a 77.0 at the top of the list. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson at 75.1. Running back Xavier Scott with a 73.7. Edge rusher John Grenard a 72.4. And then cornerback Byron Murphy Jr. a 68.9. Quarterback Carson Wentz in this one, 56.4. Had a couple of mistakes, obviously some throws that he would have liked to have back that unfortunately for their side of things went into why this game turned out the way that it did. But your thoughts here? Stat that told the story.
I think for me, for the Steelers, because this is offensively, I think, a little more ideal than the first 3 weeks, is Aaron Rodgers. Look, he's going to be conservative. The dig throw to Metcalf, and Metcalf taking off for 80 yards after the catch was obviously the biggest play of the game. Yeah. But they were able to balance this thing out with the run game finally, and it took them 4 games to get into it. And Jaylen Warren was out, which makes this even more impressive, this performance. Now, is it a world-beating performance by some team standards, say Detroit or Philadelphia or somebody like that? No, but compared to what we'd seen in the first 3 games from the Steelers, this was a really nice performance. 74.3 rushing grade, 29 carries, 131 yards, 4.5 yards a carry, 4 explosives. All of these were season highs, and you could feel, especially in the second half of this game, that the Steelers' offensive line on the interior especially was feeling good about their matchup against a banged-up Vikings front 7. Andrew Van Ginkel's out off the edge, Blake Cashman's out at linebacker, and this group of defensive tackles is leaned more towards the pass rush than they are in run defense. Now, Jalen Redmond's obviously pretty good, but when you're talking about guys like Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, you can attack those guys if you can execute downhill. The Steelers' run game gave them balance, and I'm just going to wrap in my most impressive here. Kenneth Gainwell, like you just mentioned, I think he gave them a spark, especially with Jaylen Warren out. We were expecting Warren to be the spark guy, obviously, in this run game. Maybe Caleb Johnson a little bit. He's in the doghouse a little bit for the kick return a couple weeks ago, but Gainwell was really good. 7 forced missed tackles. 78 of his 99 rushing yards came after contact. I thought that when he needed to bounce off tackle, he did it well. 2 touchdowns, 6 first downs. He just kept the chains moving, especially when you get a lead and you get into the second half of these games with a big lead. You got to be able to run the football, and Gainwell was really the biggest reason that they could do that. And also, Trev, I'm getting it here, 19 carries in this game for Gainwell. He hadn't had 19 carries in a game since his 2019 college season at Memphis.
Wow.
Week 10 of the 2019 college season was the last time Kenneth Gainwell got 19 carries in a game. So obviously he was feeling fresh, and he ran really, really well. Him, and especially that interior, that offensive line, they were a big reason the Steelers won this game.
Yeah, I think the Steelers, they played better up front on the defensive side of football, and they played better running the football on the offensive side of things. And I think those were the takeaways that we have for the Steelers in this one. I don't think it was that different than what they had been in the first couple of weeks, to be honest with you, but the Steelers and a Mike Tomlin coach team has always been this way. If you make mistakes, they're probably going to beat you. Just like somehow, some way, the game script is going to go a certain way where if you make more mistakes than they do, there's not a team in the league that feels like they capitalize on that more than the Pittsburgh Steelers do, which is incredible, obviously, because somebody's got to win that turnover battle every single week. And if Aaron Rodgers, I think we're going to sit here and we go, okay, well, 152 of his 200 passing yards, 199 passing yards came after the catch, right? They didn't ask Aaron Rodgers once again to do a lot. But if he doesn't turn the ball over, that's kind of what they need from him to do. They're just trying to win that turnover battle. So Steelers are sitting here at 3-1, and it's impressive. Now, on the other side of things, to me, the stat that told the story was the backup offensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings not holding up their end of the bargain. Now, they're backups for a reason. I get that. But still, Justin School at right tackle, 4 pressures in this game. Michael Juergens at center, coming in for Ryan Kelly, 4 pressures in this game. I mean, it was not a cohesive unit. And I'll tell you what I really noticed about this, and this is something that I was a little bit worried about with Jordan Mason, their running back. he is bouncing out everything, it feels like, to the sideline. He does not really trust running through the tackles. Now, Mason is sort of a mid to outside zone runner anyway. That's where he is most comfortable. It feels like that's been where he has been most productive throughout his NFL career. So that part of it isn't that new. But specifically against the Vikings, I'm watching this game. There are plays where it's like even just an inside zone concept where he is looking to bounce it out as soon as he possibly can. And I don't think that he trusts this offensive line for the Vikings. I was really bullish on this Vikings team going into the season, but a big reason why I was is because, one, I didn't think that J.J. McCarthy would look, as I don't want to be too harsh in my words here.
Shaky's a good word.
Shaky's a good word. That's a good word. That's not as harsh as other words could be. Shaky, I think, is a good word. Thank you for giving me the assist there. But really, it was the offensive lines and the defensive lines with this team. The additions to both sides of the trenches that I felt really good about. And here we are in this game. They weren't as good in run defense as I thought they were going to be. And they weren't as good up front as I thought they were going to be. And some injuries have gone into that, obviously. But that's been a detracting factor from the Vikings being as good of a team, even with a shaky situation at quarterback, as we have seen play out. So to me, that was a big stat that told the story is how much their offensive line struggled in this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll start on the defensive side there. Look, you look at their 2 wins, their run defense grade. They had 76.5 and 92.4 against Cincinnati, which they can't run the ball, but Minnesota took care of business. Against Atlanta, it was a 40, and in this game, a 49.5. So you're going to get teams in the future here. When you talk about, teams, they got to play the Lions twice. They got to play the Eagles, the Commanders, Seattle, Green Bay twice. I mean, you're going to get teams that are going to look at these 2 games that they've lost against Atlanta and now Pittsburgh and go, hey, we can run right at this team. And we can just control the clock and keep their offense, keep those weapons off the field. The offensive side, and right now there's multiple teams like this, I think the offensive line injuries especially, and just for the Vikings, the injuries are the story in general. I mean, on the defensive side, Andrew Van Ginkel, huge piece. Blake Cashman, you can feel the absence at linebacker of Blake Cashman right now, especially when Kenneth Gainwell was bouncing those runs. Blake Cashman is the guy who's going to run sideline to sideline and make those tackles. But then you look at it, J.J. McCarthy, Aaron Jones, Donovan Jackson, wrist surgery at left guard. Ryan Kelly came out of this game less than halfway through. Brian O'Neill played 11 snaps in this game. 3 starting offensive linemen, your starting quarterback, your starting running back, and 2 big-time defenders already. And that's not even counting anybody else that might come. Right now, the Vikings, they got to find a way to get healthy.
Yeah,
and that's they're going to fall behind in a really darn good division if they can't get healthy. And then I think fundamentally on the defensive side, if they are healthy, they do need to stop the run better because we've seen it in their 2 losses now that they've gotten run all over. Atlanta beat them with a sledgehammer. The Steelers beat them with a sledgehammer, and the Steelers are not known right now as a good running team. Right. Atlanta's one thing; they got a great offensive line. They got Bijan and Algier, all of that.
Well, Atlanta's offensive line is struggled too, and it's so far through this season.
But we know they're still a threat to run the ball.
They're capable.
You get behind Chris Lindstrom, you can run the ball. This Steelers team is not a good running football team. And yet they came in here and they looked like one in this game. Mm-hmm. I think Minnesota does have a lot of concerns in the trenches, both with health and execution.
I would agree. Vikings secondary, also something that was tough. 148 receiving yards of the 200 passing yards came after the catch. Obviously, that's something that, Aaron Rodgers is recognizing things very quickly. He's getting the ball in the hands of these guys in rhythm. He's giving them space to be able to run after the catch. But it's also where are the dudes to tackle him, right? How is he so open? How is there not a receiver near him? And DK Metcalf's kind of a different beast of just how you're covering him. And when he gets a straight line and when he gets some open grass, he can really cover a ton of it. But I thought the Vikings secondary was underwhelming in this one. My most impressive was TJ Watt, 8 pressures, 17.5% passer to win percentage, and then the interception as well, which felt like it was just another high IQ TJ Watt play that we've seen him make so many times throughout his career. So giving him a shout out there. Anything else before we move on to the next game?
I think to the point on Rodgers, this was a game where, yes, he didn't grade very highly again, but when you look at this game compared to how when the Jets played the Vikings last year, it looked last year like he couldn't really see what Brian Flores was trying to do to him. This year, the vision looked a lot better, and it felt like whether Flores went man or zone on any given play, Rodgers knew what was coming this time, and it was at least much more decisive than he was last year when he was with the Jets playing the same team.
That's why you bring him in, for literally exactly what you just said there. So they're getting the return that they wanted from him.